through the eyes of a traveler. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, world. Wherever you may be, I hope you're smiling. So what's today's video all about? Well, it's another bike review. And this time, we're going to review a favorite of mine, a Suzuki GSR 750. So let me just explain what I do with my reviews. I don't do brand new bikes because the majority of the world cannot afford brand new bikes. We buy used old bikes. Now, obviously, I'm going to try to do the best I can with the budget that I have. So what I try to do is find a good, clean, old bike to review. This particular bike I have actually acquired. So it's my bike and I've had it for a little while, but it's one of those bikes I only take out for a quick spin. As it's not a touring bike, it's more of a naked sports bike. I'm one of those people who rides it once in a while, and when you see the mileage that I've clocked, you'll realize what I mean exactly. Anyway, let's begin with the review. So let's start with the specs. It's a bike offered by Suzuki, sits at 749cc. It's a 16-valve inline 4, which offers a very powerful 106 horsepower or 79 kilowatts. Now, weight-wise, it's over 200 kilograms, but when you ride it, you don't feel that. It sits at 213 wet weight, and it has a fuel capacity of 17.5 liters. I can't give you an average, to be honest, because it's one of those fast bikes. If you wish to ride it as a fast bike, you can burn fuel very quickly, or you can ride it sensibly and get a better average per gallon or per litre. But anyway, getting back to the bike, what I would say is that even though this was actually introduced in 2011, and the bike that I'm riding now is a 2012 model, so it's near enough one of those bikes that was introduced right at the very beginning, they haven't changed much from this bike. It's the same bike that you can buy now. So going on 10 years on in 2021, the bike hasn't changed. What does that tell you about the bike? Well, one, you could say Suzuki is very lazy, but I know that's not the case. So what it does tell you is the bike is so good that it hasn't required much change, if at all any. The shape in itself is a very, very dynamic, aggressive, naked bike shape. And the engine, which comes from the street bike known as GSR 750 back in 2005, was a renowned engine, and that has been slightly retuned to allow it to sit in the GSR 750. But basically, it's a fantastic engine, and it's been tested by time, and it's basically passed every test it's had to endure. Now, I could tell you more specs, but the truth is most people who watch reviews want to know how it feels as a bike, how it feels on the road, what its handling's like, and they want that first-hand experience from the reviewer. So I'm going to do that, and I'm going to hold back on any more specs. I'll put them on the screen later on, but for now, let's show you how it looks. It pains me to share anything that's negative about this bike because I like this bike so much, but it wouldn't be a fair review if I didn't share the negatives. There aren't many, but there are a couple. Now, number one is me being pedantic. I always point this out. I think with the day and age that we live in now, all bikes should have either a 12-volt charger point or a USB point. This bike has neither. In its defense, I would say that it is nearly a 10-year-old bike, and so back then maybe it wasn't something that they thought about, but that is one of the downsides. And the other downside is that the suspension is quite firm. Now, it is a sports bike, and suspension is supposed to be firm on a sports bike, but it's not an outright sports bike. So I think the suspension could be a little more softer than it actually is, but it's not that hard that it's going to cause you any discomfort. But for the sake of being complete and fair, I would have to point out that the suspension could be a little softer. Other than that, I think there aren't many negatives that I can add to. It's just a good looking bike, especially when you think back it was introduced about 10 years ago. So from a rider's perspective, this bike holds the road very well. It's nimble, it goes around corners and bends like it was super glued to the ground. Well, obviously not super glued, the wheels wouldn't move at all, but you know what I mean. It's got speed, its acceleration is phenomenal. I'm believing that this isn't far off a GSR. So a Suzuki GSR, which is known for its speed. This is slightly slower, but only a tad bit, and you wouldn't really notice that unless you're on a track. In terms of its looks, its aesthetics, I can't believe this was introduced in 2011. It looks as though even in 2021, it's a phenomenal beast of a bike. It looks great. It has those sharp, shark-like looks, and it feels as though it's a bike that could be introduced this very year and it would be a new introduction. So when you look at the fact that it's the same bike that's been going for 10 years, I think it means that it must have been a very, very great offering back then. And it's a great offering now. The great thing about this bike also is it's not a very expensive bike. You can pick up great low mileage bikes for under £5,000, and for something that's a naked sports, that's a fair price. That's a very fair price. And if you don't mind a little bit of mileage that's been clocked on, you can pick it up for a lot less. The very early versions did not have ABS, but now ABS is an add-on, or I think it actually comes as standard now. In terms of torque, it is a fine bike. I think sometimes it's more bike than I can handle because I'm an adventure rider by choice. And so when I get behind these kind of bikes, I don't realize how much power is in this bike. It has a top speed of 230 plus miles per hour, and it accelerates truly like a bullet out of a gun. Can't beat the acceleration on this. I'm sure if I had a Hayabusa, I could, but for a naked bike that sits at 750cc, it's got plenty. One thing to note, some would say that it seems like a very heavy bike at 213, and arguably over 200 kilograms on any bike is heavy. But this, when it moves, feels very, very light. And in fact, even when it's not moving through the motion of the engine and you're moving it physically, it doesn't actually feel too heavy. Maybe it's because the weight is lower down and its gravitational balance allows it to feel a lot lighter than it actually is. Now to finish off, let's share the beauty of the GSR 750. Here goes. As promised, time for the spec sheet. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for your patience and time. And for those that are on two wheels, please ride safely. And for everyone, God bless you all. Take care. See you soon. Oh, just in case I forget to mention, did I say please, please, please subscribe, like and comment? If I didn't, I have now.